your supplements and functional foods, legal developments, ingredient news, education, inspiration, entertainment, insider in the afternoon.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. I am your host for the day, Todd Runstead. My cohort in crime, Ola Lessard, is out camping in Oregon, and it's really cloudy here in Colorado. It might be hazy. It might be wildfire season. I hear the wildfires aren't so big here in Colorado. Ola, were you lighting a campfire in Oregon? Bad idea. Anyway, so it's just me. I am just the one co-factor. Does that make me just the factor? Wasn't that a Bill O'Reilly thing? I'm not Bill O'Reilly, not that guy. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about a lot of good things today. We have a special guest, Asa Waldstein, on the Toddcast. We're going to talk about how to out-regulate the regulators. That's a good one. And we also have some Supply Side West, their Phoenix pop-up event. Event happened just a couple of weeks ago, and Sandy Almendares, she was out there, trolling the show floor and seeing what she could find, and so she lassoed somebody, and we're going to have that. And so to start, I just want to I want to share something that I received in the mail this week. I think it was really cool. It's a white paper that it's found on the Natural Products Insider site, and this comes from Ingredion, the good folks out there in Jersey. And this is really interesting. This is why I wanted to share it to you. So it's about functional beverages, and it's about health claims. And so when I look at this up here, you got the top 5 benefits, why consumers are consuming functional beverages. And so this research, it comes from Ingredion, and it also comes from Euromonitor. So it's not just, Ingredion tooting their own horn for their own products. I think it has backing. You like to have 2 sources in the journalistic biz at least. And so here's 2. So we have, consumers, they want it to support overall health, and then immune system, digestive health. So when I see immunity and digestion and gut health, I go straight to probiotics, right? And so, and then you got, protein, weight management, keto. But so probiotics, to me, probiotics and prebiotics. Now I know Ingredion used to be called National Starch, and so like resistant starch is a prebiotic, and a prebiotic is resistant starch. So maybe that's what they're selling. But the point remains that probiotics, and it is such a big category, and it's growing so fast. I think it's the fastest growing nutritional ingredient of any nutritional bioactive out there. And part of that, and the really amazing thing is it comes from such a big baseline. Like it's already like a way multi-billion-dollar ingredient. And I think part of that reason is because it goes across all product formats. The classic is kefir. Remember kefir? I actually got this just this last weekend at the store. I just wanted something to just make me feel good, settle me down. It was like that was my brunch for the day. So that's kind of a drink. And then of course we have yogurts as the classic. And then obviously we've got supplements. So there's lots of runway for probiotics that are left in the market, and I think that's really cool. So I want to transition over, Charlie, to another thing. I just gave this today on the New Hope site. It was something on SwapCard, on New Hope 360, and on SwapCard, things like that. And so this is a really interesting take on where we've been for the last year and where we're going in the next 10. That's right. The crystal ball right here on Insider in the Afternoon. And we are going to talk about 10 years in the future. Oh my God. If you'd like investment advice from me, I'm also available for that. I'll meet you at the bar, and I predict you will buy the first round. Ha. All right. So where we've been in the last 1 year? I think we all know, our old friend COVID. And so I think it's really interesting. You have, when you look at this, self plus supplements, Now, I don't know if they started like this, but this is just an emblematic example that you have companies that it's like, oh, we had an energy powder. Well, let's throw some like zinc, elderberry, vitamin D, vitamin C, whatever, and call it energy plus immunity. So there was a lot of that going around. 23 Vitals, I think, is just like the best example of a kitchen sink style supplement. Because there's lots of different ways that you can address immunity. And that was obviously the thing that was driving supplement sales over the last year. Oh, did I mention a record 15.5% growth according to Nutrition Business Journal? All-time record, unprecedented, never seen before. Is there another superlative I can think of? The superlatives just keep on coming for the supplements industry for 2020. And so a company like 23 Vitals, they hopped right on that. 23 ingredients, addressing innate and adaptive immunity, priming the immunity with the Wellmune ingredient, the yeast beta glucan, which is like a great ingredient for wellness. I was taking that for like a couple years. I would have it by my bedstand. Never got sick. It's just an anecdote. It's not even a data point, but it works for me. And so that was in there with all this other stuff. Symbiotics, here we go back to probiotics. That was the story that I was telling you, how there is so much bandwidth that's going. And so symbiotics, they put probiotics in with colostrum. I think that's the colostrum balance. And colostrum, that was like an old school ingredient that I remember from like so long ago. And I just kind of forgot about it. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's making a comeback. It's really interesting. Like I'm so deep in the ingredients market that I remember adaptogens, like talking about them like 15 years ago, talking about how, oh, the Soviets and the Olympics, hey, the Olympics are coming up this month. And we're going to have something on Insider in the afternoon about the Olympics. Stay tuned for that in a couple of weeks. But so the Olympic team was using adaptogens, the Schizandra and the rhodiola, ashwagandha, to power performance in a legal way. Oh, wait. Here's a joke, because we're here for entertainment. You know what the difference is between illegal and unlawful? Anyone? Unlawful means against the law. And illegal, that's a sick bird. But thank you. I'll be here all week, or at least for the next 5 minutes. So anyway, probiotics are big. They're big. So, COVID, there's COVID-19, and then there's the COVID-19. Admit it, we all put on a little weight when we were sitting there being couch potatoes. Oh, I know I did. And I've been hitting the hills over the last couple of weeks. And now it really stinks to go out because Ola's lighting campfires in Oregon. And it was really hard taking a hike yesterday. It's bad out here in Colorado. So anyway, you're going to see a lot. Like, it's a great opportunity. I mean, that's really, it's the old saying where some perish, others prosper. A lot of people perish because of COVID, but there was a lot of prospering going on in the supplements world. And so I think the next big thing is you're going to see weight management things come to the fore. And when I think weight management, keto, right? Because keto is it's like the Atkins diet with a salad, right? So it's really healthy. It continues to continue. My mom, I just talked to her yesterday when I was taking a hike. She dropped 30 pounds. I didn't even think she had 30 pounds to lose, but she dropped 30, and she said she did it all on keto. So again, an anecdote, not quite a data point, not quite a trend line, anything like that. But it's still a thing, and I think it's still a thing because it's real and it's happening. So keto, it also latches onto the protein trend, which isn't going anywhere because protein is the one macronutrient that has never been dinged. Collagen plays into that. So collagen has been growing at like 30% growth rate year after year, and I keep thinking it's got to stop, but it doesn't. And then we've got the COVID comorbidities of diabetes, weight, and cardiovascular. I think vitamin D, I've said this before, is also a comorbidity. If you have low vitamin D levels, you're going to get COVID worse. High, you get better. There was a published research study showing it can actually prevent it. Like, there's a certain mechanism, which is really fascinating. And so then you have CBD, which is still a thing, but you're seeing CBD companies putting other ingredients in with it. And now you're seeing them even roll out new ingredients that don't have any CBD. So CBD companies are becoming supplement companies. So I think that's really interesting. And then, so of course, all the stress and the sleep and all the things that are all in our head. And then look at this, what's happening in the supplements world is look at these things like serenity now, optimism. Like you don't need a structure function claim for that. Asa, we're going to talk about this. And I hear you, Charlotte. We're going to wrap up in just a minute. So, but I think this is really interesting when you have these sorts of things on product labels right there, where it's like, yeah, the FDA is not going to, like, what is this thing called tranquility? And then, you also see Gen Z, they don't just want healthy products, but they want integrity and they want transparency, and they're going to call you out on it if not. And so you can't just build a good branded ingredient product. You got to have a really good story. Maybe that branded ingredient has a story behind it. Finally, this is my last slide before we take it away to Sandy. Marijuana gave us CBD, and health mushrooms, medical mushrooms have given us magic mushrooms, and they're all going to be legal. They're being legal. They're in Oregon. They're in Colorado, legal. How long before we see marijuana? How long before we see psilocybin at Natural Products Expo at Supply Side West? Interesting stuff, right? All right. Well, that's my story from here, kids. And let's go on a little trip to Phoenix, and Sandy Almendarez, Chris Haynes, take it away.
Hi, I'm Sandy Almendarez here at Supply Side Phoenix in my hometown of Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm getting to know some members of the industry and bringing them right to this stage. I'm sitting with Chris Haynes, who is Senior Director of Global Sales at Stratum Nutrition. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you
for
so much for joining.
No problem.
Where do you live?
Springfield, Missouri.
So you flew in to get here?
We did, yes.
Oh, I'm so honored that you would fly here to come to our show. I'm so happy that people really bought in and are here, and the energy is really great.
It has been extremely good energy, yeah, no question.
But this is not your first supply side event by any means.
No, not at all. I was actually at the first supply side.
Oh, so so this is at least your second. This is at least your second time here in Phoenix.
This is at least my second time here, yeah.
Tell me about your first time.
Well, it was in the tent, and it was a little shocking when we go walking into the tent. It was like, really, we're doing it in a tent. That was it. Obviously, it's grown a lot and gotten much more sophisticated. But yeah, it was a hot tent, but it was still a good event. The precursor to everything that's happened so far, and it's good.
Yeah, I mean, it was. At least you came back after that.
Didn't have a choice. It was the place to be.
Ah, I love that. Mm-hmm. So tell me about today, and what's one thing you're trying to get accomplished?
Well, obviously, the one thing we want to get accomplished is renewing some relationships and talking, face to face again. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
It was interesting to me, speaking strictly for myself, that having been away from masses of people for a while, it was a little bit interesting to be in a big group suddenly. I was like, wow, there's a lot of people around here again, and that was interesting. But again, back to your first question, and that was get to meet people, reestablish relationships, and start talking business again face to face.
That's great, and I hope you're able to accomplish that.
We've done that, yes indeed.
What's an interest that you have that people in the industry might not know?
Horses.
Horses?
Yes. My daughter barrel races, and so we have horses at the house, and it takes a lot of time, but they're a lot of fun and magnificent animals. Yep.
So do you ride horses?
Yeah, we ride. Yep. I ride, she races, she goes fast, I just go slow.
How long have you been riding horses?
Really for about 11 years now. Yeah, it's new.
That is really great.
Yeah, it's great.
Oh, they're so beautiful. Okay, so now I've got some industry trivia questions.
Okay.
If you're up for the challenge. When was DSHEA passed?
Oh my gosh. Mid-90s, about the best I'm going to be able to do there.
That counts. Okay. 1994.
All right. 92 popped into my head, but I didn't think that was right.
That's good. That's close, right? Mm-hmm. What do GMP stand for?
Good manufacturing practice.
What does the C stand for in CGMP?
Oh man, I'm blank. I don't remember.
Current.
Current. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Name 2 trade associations and their leaders.
Oh my gosh. CRN, Steve, and
Steve Mister.
actually, I think I'm blank on other leaders.
Who leads UNPA?
Yep, it's true. Those, but I don't remember.
Lauren Israelson.
Lauren. Okay.
And we've got, who else do we have? We've got the Organic and Health Trade Association with Karen Howard. Natural Products Association with Dan Fabricant.
Yep.
What is Vitamin Angels?
That is a charity organization. I think that'd be the proper way to describe them. That they provide vitamins that to underprivileged children throughout the world.
Yes, and mothers also.
And mothers. Yeah.
What Vegas resort is where Supply Side West is?
What Vegas is right now?
No, yeah, like what's our resort?
Mandalay?
Yep. Yes. Yes. Let's see. Name 2 adaptogenic herbs.
Not a chance.
Okay.
Not my market.
Not your market. Oh, true. Okay. What year was the first Supply Side?
Oh, now I'm aging myself. It was in a tent. I remember that. No, maybe.
It was 2 years after Deshay passed.
96?
There you go.
All right.
Let's see. What does CBD stand for?
CBD. I know what it is. Yep, nope, I'm not going to be able to.
Cannabidiol.
Cannabidiol.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Yep.
Chris, for joining and playing along
No
with this silly game on this hot Phoenix afternoon. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Back to you, Todd.
All right, all right. So trade shows are a thing. Supply side's a thing. Supply Side East is happening in August. Supply Side West is happening in Vegas. There's going to be Expo East in between the two. Woo-hoo! Can't wait for all that. That's good stuff. There's just a little morsel for you. All right. Well, moving right along here, we have our guest for this week, Asa Waldstein from Supplement Advisory Group, who's going to teach us how to out-regulate the regulators, because we know a lot of you people play a little fast and loose. Asa, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, so good. Thank you so much for having me on the Toddcast. And yes, to your point on the trade shows, I am so excited to be back. I can't wait to give everybody, forget about the awkward fist bumps. We're doing hugs when I see everybody at the trade show. Thanks so much for me.
That's awesome. You made it down to Phoenix, didn't you? You were down at that pop-up?
Yep, I was able to go in for the What's Up with Subs party. A lot of hugs, a lot of smiles. So it's great to be back.
That's funny. I was talking to somebody last night, friends who's in the music business, and she was like, "Oh, you know, I saw our friend and gave him a hug, and he said I'm not supposed to hug, you know, because he's still COVID concerned, but he's like, you know, that's not happening. We're hugging away." So that's really cool. Yeah, Asa, supplements are kind of like the great wink, wink, nod, nod sort of pursuit. From a marketing perspective, like labels famously say, I'll just pick up any random one, these statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This statement is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So instead, we're given structure function claims per Deshay. So can you just describe what a structure function claim is?
Sure. Simply put, a structure function claim is any dietary ingredient that affects the structure or function of the body, for anything in the body. So an example of this would be calcium builds strong bones. That would be an official structure function claim.
And so the flip side of that, what trips people up is there's the drug disease claim, and that's part of the regulatory difference, right, between the two. So what would a drug disease claim be, and like how would you differentiate that from, like say we're talking about the same ingredient?
Good stuff. I like that. So calcium prevents inflammation. That would be a great example of turning a structure function claim from calcium builds strong bones into a disease claim. And before discussing really what a disease claim is, I'd like to just go over how the FDA defines a disease. So according to the FDA, the FDA defines disease as damage to any organ, part, structure, or body system that doesn't function properly. So anything that really affects that is considered a disease claim.
That's interesting because it's sort of on the same continuum, right, as a structure function claim. I guess a structure function is like a supplements are there to support healthy functioning. And then once it breaks down into a disease state, that's when we give people drugs, right? Is that kind of it?
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. And I've got a few helpful, I mean, that was a pretty wordy, FDA definition of disease. And you're right, there's some gray area between what a disease claim or drug disease claim is and a structure function claim. So I've come up with a few general rules. Anything ending in itis, itis means inflammation of, such as arthritis. That would be considered a claim that a company would want to stay away from if they can. And interestingly enough, the itis that's been called out the most in warning letters is arthritis, or it's been called out a lot. It's crazy. Arthritis is getting really picked on a lot too. So arthritis would be an example of very high risk claim. And then anything a drug is indicated for, such as anxiety, or Xanax rather, indicated for anxiety. Anxiety would be the drug claim or the disease claim in this example. And then this is also really interesting. Most things with anti in the title, not antioxidant, but pretty much everything else, such as anti-inflammatory, antiviral, those are all in the drug disease high risk claim categories.
Yeah, that's really that's fascinating. I mean, it's really a game. Like there's this one product who the product was improved bowel support. And so you look at that and you're like, yeah, that's fine. But they capitalized and put a different color on the first letters of those three, which is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. That's a disease. So it's like, ooh, it's so close how you can come. There's another product I saw called Choles-T, Choles hyphen capital T. And it's like, so if you're the consumer, you're like, oh, I get it. This is going to drive down my cholesterol levels. Well, you can't actually say this is going to drive down the cholesterol levels, but they're going to suggest it in a name, So that's kind of like this tricky, it's interesting just talking to lawyers. They'll say that they're really in the risk management, business, where it's like, there's a continuum of things that you can say, and it just depends on what your risk is out there, and you might have your opinion that you would give to your clients, like, I wouldn't do that. That's risky. But maybe the company is like, let's just go for it anyway. I think we'll get more sales if we're a little more suggestive about it. Like, is that a conversation that you have with clients?
I actually had that conversation this morning with a client too. They said, we want to risk it. And I like to just say, let's take a step back and say, is the reward really worth the risk? Are you actually going to get a bump is the company actually going to get a bump in sales by pushing the limits? And I'm glad you brought up examples of the improved I, bowel, B support, S, IBS, or bone density, examples like that. Now they're clever marketing, and we all have to get the marketing message across in a way that's compliant, but also effective. Because if we can't be effective, we can't get the health-giving products to our customers, and we can't keep the lights on and do fun things with our family, like go out to tacos in Longmont, Colorado, where I live, because we got great tacos. But these interesting words, such as bone density, they're not likely to attract a warning letter. But what I like to say is, let's take a step back. Let's look at the fabric of online compliance. So bone density, or an example like that, probably, again, as I mentioned, it's probably not going to get a warning letter, but it most certainly can lead to increased scrutiny on all channels. So let's say that a company is making bone density. I'm just picking on this name as an example. I'm not sure if that's a real name or not. And then on some social media channel, they're using #arthritis, or then they're citing an osteoporosis study on their product page. Now, compliance can't be done in a vacuum, so a regulator would be maybe irritated by a product that's clever, that's claimy, like bone density, but then it might trigger them to look deeper and deeper.
Yeah. So what happens when you stray too far from a structure function claim and the FDA takes notice? I think you had mentioned a warning letter or a 483.
Yeah.
What are those things all about?
Yeah, thank you for that. Warning letters, really, that's really the biggest way that companies can get slapped by the FDA or FTC, which are in warning letters. Their warning letters are they're a basis of wrongdoing, or they're a statement of wrongdoing. The company has done something wrong and illegal. So usually we see this in FDA warning letters. There's also FTC warning letters. And there's also that other big elephant in the room, plaintiff attorneys, class action lawsuits. So a lot of times warning letters and class action lawsuits go hand in hand. A company or a bunch of companies will get warning letters, then you'll see the class actions follow. And these plaintiff attorneys oftentimes use a warning letter as the basis for wrongdoing in their class action lawsuits.
Oh, wow. So that's really interesting because I was just going to ask, like, how much of a pain is it to respond to an FDA warning letter? Like, they only give you 15 days to get your act together, right? So that sounds like a big pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's such a pain in the butt. And for any COVID related warning letter, it's only 48 hours. So talk about a big pain in the butt. So let's say you get a warning letter. I like to always educate. Let's go back to that example of companies wanting to push the limits to get revenue. So I actually made a video on this, and I love to talk about, well, here's reasons why you want to avoid a warning letter. Takes legal resources to respond to, takes your eye off the prize in any rapidly growing company, in particular in the hemp space or any emerging market. Having to change your bandwidth to deal with an FDA warning letter can really hinder your company growth. It's also memorialized forever in FDA warning letter history, and it ranks really high in the search engine. So dear Mr. and Mrs. and your company name will show up forever and ever. Also, warning letters, they scare away investors. So I've been in rooms, Todd, where there's lots of private equity group meetings, and companies are like, yeah, well, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with that. And then I'll say, and it'll scare away investors if you ever want to sell your company. And then the light bulbs go off. They're like, ding, ding, ding. That's really what a lot of investors pay attention to. They don't want to scare away any future strategic investment or purchase. And the last but not least, as I mentioned, warning letters alert class action attorneys. So
yeah, I mean, that to me, I didn't even think about that. Like to me, I thought, I want to get back to the investor and the lawyer thing. In fact, let's just jump right into that right there. Because there is the hassle of responding to it, and maybe you have to reformulate, or maybe you just have to recommunicate. And so that's one thing. But when you're talking lawyers and investors, that's a money, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, that'll make me sit up and take notice right there. Man, that's a big situation right there. Lawyers and investors, people with the money. Oh my God. Right?
Oh yeah. So true. Yeah. Money talks. And it's really, get to that conversation that I was having this morning. It's really common that companies will say, well, we need sales. We need to be really risky with our marketing message. We're going to use arthritis. We're going to use anxiety. We're going to use pain in our marketing. And when you think back to it, I think if you did a cost benefit analysis, companies would see that you're not really getting any more benefit from making these high risk marketing statements. And if you get hit with a warning letter, you're going to be operating in the negative because you have all those attractive factors that we just spoke of.
Well, so I wonder how many companies just think it's like, let's be edgy. We've got it in our budget. There's a P&L line just out here for fines. I mean, there was the famous case of Dannon Activia, when they first started pushing probiotics. Here we are back on the probiotics kick again, with Jamie Lee Curtis purring into the phone about how these things, and she's making drug disease claims. They made $100 million in that first year, which is pretty fantastic for a first year, but they got fined 21 million. And so Dannon was just like, yeah, okay, we had that in the budget. We made 100, we paid 21. We're still up almost 80. Good. Like, that probably happens, right?
Yeah, I think this is happening at a very large multinational level. And it's my interpretation that companies are having this discussion. Well, if we push it really hard, we already know the metrics of how much revenue we're going to get. And so that's an unfortunate boardroom discussion that's really happening at a high level. The sad thing is, Todd, that I think a lot of new companies and emerging brands see that happening, and they have their own rationale for making claims. Well, if $100 million sales, if they're doing it, well, we can do it. Well, the big companies that are already doing it, they've already they already know what their revenue and what their likely fine is going to be. This is not a world that small companies tend to play in.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Interesting wisdom there from Asa Waldstein, Supplement Advisory Group. Oh my God, time is up. Asa, thanks for joining us, and everyone else, thanks for joining us here on another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. See you next week.
Sustain